What's up, ladies and gents? Welcome back to another video. So, Nintendo recently released some brand new news on the game ARMS, which is coming out sometime this spring for the Nintendo Switch, and I wanted to sort of give my own thoughts on this whole game, even though it's not entirely out yet, but I just sort of want to talk about what I think about it and what I hope is in it, and just sort of, again, my thoughts on it. So, they recently released what's called a character trailer and a weapons trailer. And so right now, all we know is that there are 5 characters available. There will hopefully probably be more as the game is released, and maybe they'll even release more leading up to release. So that would be very cool. But right now we know of Springman, Ribbon Girl, Ninjara, Master Mummy, and Mechanica. Now this character trailer sort of goes a little bit more in detail as to what these characters are, the different abilities that they have, and what makes each of them sort of stand out. So Springman is more so of a balanced fighter. He's got adequate speed, adequate strength. Sort of his abilities are just sort of all around that you would generally find for a fighter in this style of game. So not too much noteworthy there with Springman, but I think if you're obviously just starting out with the game, I think it would be good to start out with him to get a feel of the controls and just how the game actually plays. So Springman would be very cool. I'll probably use him quite a bit just because I sort of consider myself like a balanced fighter in sort of any kind of fighting game that I play. I don't normally play a lot of fighting games. I think Smash Brothers would probably be the biggest fighting game that I've ever played. I did play Street Fighter back in the day, which was a lot of fun. Never really got into Mortal Kombat or like Tekken or anything like that, but yeah, anyway, I think Springman would be a very good choice, especially with just starting out. So following Springman, they went on to Ribbon Girl, and she's sort of kind of similar to Springman, but she has jumps in midair, so she can actually jump multiple times once she's already in the air, kind of like Kirby, if you've ever played a Kirby game or have played as Kirby in Smash. That's there as well. So that's very cool. So yeah, Ribbon Girl, very awesome. Next they showed Ninjara, who has some pretty interesting aspects as well. Probably the most prominent thing is that he can air dash, in the air, and he can disappear. So essentially you're dodging, but it sort of goes a step further because he disappears from, the spot and then just sort of reappears out of nowhere. So that's very cool. Master Mummy is basically the tank of these characters so far. He doesn't flinch when he's punched, which would be obviously be beneficial, especially in hectic battles. And his guard actually restores health. So when he's guarding, when he's got his arms, when he's got his arms, crossed in front of his chest, he actually restores health. And I've seen some people say that this would be that Master Mummy is a little bit too OP, overpowered, but considering there's like sort of a weapon triangle effect going on in this game, sort of like Fire Emblem, there's some different things that you can do to counteract his guard move. I can't exactly remember what it is, but I think throws counter guards counter hits, and I guess hits counter throws or grabs, I guess. I might have that totally backwards. Knowing me, I probably do. So if so, I apologize, but there is sort of a weapons triangle aspect going on in this game, so I think that's very cool. So Master Mummy will also be very good to play as. So yeah, and then finally they showcased Mechanica, where she hovers in midair, so sort of similar to Ribbon Girl, where she can be in the air for a little bit longer, and she also doesn't get stunned as easily as well, sort of again going back to Master Mummy. So these characters are all extremely different. They each have their own strengths and their own weaknesses, and depending on who you play as and who your opponent is, a lot of times I think you'll have to sort of adapt to what is going on within the battle itself. So I think that's very cool. I think these 5 characters really showcase what this game could be. Again, I hope they include more characters in the very near future. I've heard several different reports and seen a couple of different things out on the internet saying that Nintendo already has, characters that they haven't revealed yet. Again, we don't necessarily have a firm release date of this game when it's coming out. It just said spring 2017, which spring is hilarious, by the way, because they have Spring Arms and Spring Man and all that good stuff. But anyway, so but I do think that they will add more characters, whether or not they will be unlocked, like, you know, the old days where you reach a certain goal within the game and you can unlock different characters, or if they will be through free DLC patches, sort of like what Splatoon did with different weapons and stages and things like that, or if they will be more along the paid DLC route like Super Smash Bros. And pretty much every other game that comes out nowadays. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. And again, they could definitely add more characters within the roster before the release is even revealed, because I think summer starts in like late June. Like the official start date of summer is like late June. So we've got plenty of time yet. Today is only March 22nd, so spring literally just started. So we've got some time yet. But anyway, so those are the basics of the characters. Again, I think there is a lot of different things that these characters could do. So along with this character trailer, Nintendo also released a weapons trailer for ARMS. Now, again, I don't know if these are all of the weapons that are going to be available in the game, or if this is just what they are showing off right now. Again, they might add some more before launch. They might have more with DLC, whether paid or free. We don't entirely know, but as of right now, these are the weapons that we know will be included in ARMS, guaranteed. So the first one that they show off is the toaster weapons. So these look like your standard boxing gloves, but if you charge them up, they will actually catch fire and deal some extra damage, and will also knock down your opponent. So that would be a really nice sort of, again, a very overall balanced weapon to use, especially with starting out. Because they do look pretty much like boxing gloves, but they do have something else up their sleeve as well, so that would be very cool to see. Finally, next they look at the Megaton, which are these giant metal spheres, essentially, and they can deflect enemy punches, which is, again, a very sort of an OP move, but I'm sure that there are some other things or other arms that can sort of deflect or even block the Megaton power. So that'll be interesting to see what that is like as well. But they definitely look very powerful, very strong, and very interesting as well. Next, they take a look at the Sparky weapons, which you can actually charge with electricity. And once they are fully charged and you throw a punch, your enemy, or your opponent rather, will get stunned. And then you can sort of go in and just sort of wail on them in whatever kind of way that you want to. So again, that's a nice sort of weapon ability that I think a lot of people can really utilize. So that's very cool to see as well. Next, they take a look at the boomerang weapon, which is essentially this giant arc. So if you've got a punch coming at you and you can't really, get out of the way, you can sort of throw an arc and it sort of will hit your enemy like on the side. So that'd be really cool to see as well. Again, it can add a whole new different method of taking out your opponent. Another great thing about the boomerang is that you can charge it up, and once you hit your opponent, you will actually sort of blow them away and sort of knock them down in that regard. So that's a very cool feature as well. So next, the revolver. So with the revolver, there are 3 shots with 1 punch. So essentially, if you throw a punch, it will shoot out these, I guess, missiles that are sort of attached by a string. I don't entirely know, but you can throw out a punch and it will essentially 3 hits in 1, which again sounds very OP, but again, there might be some way to, deflect that. And I actually think that they show in the trailer that it can be deflected. So that is something that is more of a defense mechanism. You can use more of a defense mechanism for that as well, so that's very important. And you can also charge them up to stun your opponent, which again is sort of similar to the Sparky, and I think that's about it actually. So finally, the last weapon that they show is the Slap-O-Mander, which has a very wide arc, so I think they describe it as like a whip weapon within the trailer. So again, you could sort of use that like with the boomerang and just sort of attack from the side, and maybe your opponent isn't really necessarily paying attention and you could sort of catch them by surprise, which again would be a great sort of method in taking out your opponent. And then finally, the last thing that they mentioned within the weapons trailer was that you can actually mix up your arms. So if you want to have a toaster on one hand and a Sparky on the other, you can do that. Or you could have a boomerang or a revolver. You could have 2 toasters, 2 Sparkies, whatever sort of combination that you want, you can do. And this sort of leads me into what I think is really great and special about this game is that each of the characters have their own sort of unique abilities and what they're good at, their strengths, their weaknesses, all that good stuff. And each of these weapons that they showed here as well all have their own strengths and weaknesses, right? So some you can have better knockdown damage, some you can stun, but other times they're easily deflectable. I don't even know if deflectable is a word, but I'm using it. There's just so much different combinations that you can do regarding this game, not just with the weapons, but with the characters as well. So let's say you've got Master Mummy who, is not easily flinchable, which flinchable is not a word, I know that, but I'm using it anyway. So if you've got somebody like him who doesn't flinch very well to punches, and he's using the Megaton, then yeah, he's going to be a huge powerhouse that can really just do a lot of damage to his opponent. So there's just so many different combinations that you can do, and I think that's why this game is so interesting to me, is that because it just seems like there's so much depth to it. Like, in some fighting games, you just sort of pick a character, you fight on a map, each character may or may not have their own, special abilities or moves, although that might not make a lot of sense, but there's definitely some games where you just sort of pick a fighter, you go in and you fight, and that's pretty much it. But with this, you can get to pick your own gear, you can pick different characters that have different abilities, and not only can you pick your different gear, but you don't have to be stuck with that same gear. You can have one arm be something totally different than the other, which I think just adds a whole new layer of depth to this game, and to the fighting genre as a whole. And I'm just really excited to see, what they can do, if they add more characters, which I'm fairly confident that they will. And if they add more arms as well, I think they can do, a ton of stuff with this. And I think this could be the next Splatoon, because when ARMS was initially revealed, people were saying, it's got motion controls, I don't really know if I want something like this, it doesn't seem like something that would really interest me. And some people sort of said that with Splatoon. Like, people first saw it and they're like, this is strange, I don't really think I'm gonna like something like this. It's very colorful and there's a lot going on, but it just looks really strange. And people ended up loving Splatoon, so much so that they're making a sequel that's going to be out sometime this summer. And I sort of get that same vibe from ARMS. It's very colorful, there's new characters, it's something new and different. Like Splatoon sort of tackled the shooter genre, even though it's not necessarily a traditional shooting game, where ARMS, is sort of tackling the fighting genre, but it's not necessarily a traditional fighting game, right? So I see a lot of similarities with ARMS and Splatoon, and I can really see ARMS sort of following the same path as Splatoon, and taking, sort of that whole idea and, running with it with, tournaments, and maybe even finding its way into esports or something. If there's a lot of content there, they can really do a lot with this game. And I think it's going to be a really great new IP for Nintendo, and I think a lot of people, once they finally play it, are really going to enjoy it. And, I mentioned that a lot of people were saying that I don't really know if I want motion controls. You can actually play this game with motion controls off. You can, use standard controls for this game, and I think that's a really nice option for people who don't necessarily want the motion controls. So I think that's going to be very good, and I think once people play it and sort of get their hands on it and, experience it, I think a lot of people are really going to like it. Well, do I think it's going to have the same huge impact of Splatoon? I don't know, because Splatoon is really something insanely special, and I do see ARMS being special as well, but I think people are kind of skeptical right now. Again, sort of similar to how they were when Splatoon was initially revealed. So I don't know if it's going to have the legacy of Splatoon, even though Splatoon is very, very recent and still very new. but I do think that ARMS certainly has that potential to blowing up like Splatoon did. And I don't want to necessarily compare the two together exclusively because they're two very different games, but I do see some similarities there as well. So I think it'll be very interesting to see where ARMS goes. I have high hopes for it. I'm very excited to play it myself. It just looks super fun. The characters look great. The music is a lot of fun. Tons of different weapons that you can pick from for now, and I don't know. I'm just excited. I'm excited to play something new, something that's fresh. So I'm really excited for this. So anyway, guys, those are my thoughts on ARMS with the character trailer and the weapons trailer. I think now that we sort of saw a lot of this stuff already, but having it sort of presented to us again to get us hyped for the game, I think was a good move on Nintendo's part. So I'm very much looking forward to playing ARMS this spring, which again is the best release window ever for something like this. So it's gonna be very cool. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you guys like this sort of style where you don't necessarily see my beautiful face, but if you like just having commentary over gameplay, let me know if you guys like that. I thought I'd try something a little different, just to experiment a little bit. So let me know what you guys think of that. Let me know what you guys think of ARMS, if you're excited for it, if you're skeptical on it. I want to hear what you guys have to say. So thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys have a great day, and take care.